you see the government data, which is there in economic survey, there are 41,000 startups in India. And interestingly, 38 of them are unicorns. That means they have become valuation-wise more than $1 billion.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Today it is an honor and a pleasure for me to introduce you all to this very particular session where we are going to know more about the entrepreneurship. My name is Harsh and I'm going to moderate this session for all of you wherein I'm going to introduce you all about session and perhaps the person who is going to interact and address all of us. First of all, I request you all to kindly acknowledge and welcome the presence of our esteemed guest, Dr. Dayanand Pandey, who is here with us. I would like to request all the persons, those who are watching this session on YouTube, to kindly upload in the comment section and welcome the presence of our esteemed guest. Dr. Dayanand Pandey is currently the professor and director at Jaipuria Institute of Management, Noida. Prior to joining Jaipuria, he worked as professor and director School of Business, UPES, Dehradun, Dean Undergraduate Programs at IMT Dubai, professor and Dean of Jindal Global Business School, NCR Delhi, professor of economics and chairman Global MBA program at IMT Ghaziabad, visiting professor at SP Jain Dubai, head of Center of Innovation and Excellence at Middlesex University Dubai, head of finance and banking program at British University in Dubai for University of Birmingham, regional head of risk management and training at Bank Melli, Iran, regional office in Dubai, coordinator of Master of Applied Finance and Banking program with the University of Wollongong in Dubai, senior lecturer at Emirates Institute of Banking and Finance Studies in Sharjah, senior assistant professor at Birla Institute of Management Technology at Delhi, and lecturer in Delhi University. Dr. Pandey has to his credit a book of on managerial economics from Pearson Education, economic environment of India, and risk management from Excel Publication Daily. So, first of all, sir, I welcome you to in this session. Thank you so much for joining and agreeing to share your thoughts with us.
Thank you, Hers, for making me, inviting me for this important YouTube channel. Thank you very much. I'm very proud of your channel interventions, and I've seen some of your videos in YouTube channel, and it makes me very proud and happy. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. It's our pleasure too. So, moving to the topic of today's session, which we have chosen, is the coronavirus crisis, a catalyst for entrepreneurship. In types of crisis, innovation becomes a necessity, and history tells us that humankind often end up in a better place. A cholera pandemic in 19th century London led to the creation of a new scientific field, epidemiology. The challenges of decrypting enemy message during World War II spurred the development of computers. With the current pandemic, it's not surprising to see a similar process of innovation. Sir, my very first question to you is, what are the learnings for all humankind from this coronavirus pandemic?
See, COVID-19 for all of us is a unique kind of a pandemic. Most of the human crises, if you see in past, they have been affecting either health or economy. This is one crisis which kept us all inside the house. Okay, and the world was not prepared for this at all. Secondly, it affected the life and livelihood both. And for the first few months, there was a complete uncertainty. We had no idea, what to do, except few instructions which came from the government and from expert that use the mask, maintain some social distancing. But gradually, as things started unfolding, when we started getting more information, then people got some kind of a sense of relief. Secondly, the crises in past have happened with the mankind in terms of health and economy. But remember, during those times, the economies were not that much connected globally, right? Economies were, I will not say in isolation, but global trade and people's movement were not very big. It was slightly restricted. But during this time, the global trade is enormous, and the movement of people across the countries is also very enormous. And if you see, even people like Indians, they have a presence worldwide. And stopping even a single flight from any country affects the load of people traveling across the globe. So now this is one crisis which is in a time affected the life, the livelihood, huge uncertainty, and the fourth most interconnected world. So very intense and very difficult crisis to handle for mankind.
Indeed, sir. I think you have very briefly explained what actually how this pandemic has affected all over the world, and I think in this point it's very hard to disagree with you. And I think the viewers, those who are watching this session, they are surely going to find us insightful. Sir, my next question to you is: after taking the lead on the supply of hydroxychloroquine, India is now on a way to become the coronavirus vaccine hub to save humanity against the COVID-19 infection. Sir, my question to you is: how do you see the role, leadership, and entrepreneurship of Indian pharmaceutical firms in fight against COVID-19 pandemic?
Hers extraordinarily beautiful, and I must compliment our fellow scientists in India, and particularly, I will also like to compliment very honestly our Honorable Prime Minister and the current leadership of India. The way they have managed the production of vaccines, distribution of vaccines, and through a strong digital network, and not supplying only for Indians, but they're supplying vaccines to many countries. Many countries might call it vaccine diplomacy, but I call it vaccine humanity. It's not diplomacy, you know. It is an extension of what India is all about. And this is not possible without a leader who understands the India's ethos philosophy. So the credit goes to our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji and the leaders who have made this possible for many countries. And India, just heard that from 1st of April 2021, these vaccines will be available for masses. So people, above 45 of age without even comorbidity, they can just get the vaccine. So production of vaccine, supply of vaccine, distribution of vaccine, and humanity at the global level. These are great success story for India. And India has been a pharmacy hub as far as vaccines are concerned for the world. You know that 60% of the global vaccines of different types, whether it's a polio or other types, they're all produced and supplied worldwide by India. But even in COVID, India has proved that India has got the potential, then manpower, the ability, and the strong supply chain. So India has emerged as of now the leader on all these fronts. So I would like to compliment scientists, the political leadership, and the people who are participating as stakeholders in each of these processes.
Indeed, sir. Again, it was a quite insightful answer from your side. And as you have very rightly mentioned that this is something how the way they have handled this situation during this coronavirus pandemic. This is something we all need to genuinely appreciate, irrespective of our political vision and choices. And sir, as we have seen that now government is understanding the need on, or we can call the emergency of entrepreneurship inside the country. In our recent budget of 2021, our finance minister also announced that government have no business to be in the business, and also promoting side with the idea of entrepreneurship within the country by promoting Atmanirbhar or self-reliant kind of things, and setting up the incubation centers all over the country. And so what we have seen is that it's the destiny of our future graduate to tackle some of the society's most urgent of and pressing challenges. Entrepreneurs have the power to save the world by developing versatile skill sets and profitable business that are crucial to the progress of our economies. But just how does one learn to be successful entrepreneur? How do we inspire our young people to go out there and keep learning so they can make their mark on the world? Do we need to dedicate more resources to the formation of entrepreneurial environment within higher education? Environment that foster progressive ideas and innovation and equip students with the practical knowledge and skills they need to navigate the choppy waters of business ownership.
I think Hers, this is very interesting question, which you have asked. Let me tell you that, let me just analyze and tell you the structure of the Indian economy and what government is doing for the ecosystem of enterprise creating of a better system for incubation, a startup in India. See, if you understand the Indian economy as of now, even today, 80% of our labor force, they are working for informal sector. So when you say informal sector, they're not working for Tatas and Birlas and Ambanis and Adanis. They are in a small setup, small enterprises, very small enterprises, and I can call them self-employed. Okay, so that many people, if you just walk in a street of any small town or a big town or a small village, also you'll find a lot of people with a small setup. Somebody is making pakoda, somebody is making samosa, somebody is selling tea, somebody is selling something. Millions of people are on a street close by their homes, and they're all self-employed. They have got a number of issues as far as a lot of organized sector benefits to labor is concerned. They might not have an insurance card, they might not have a provident fund, they might not have a strong social security, but then you will see millions of people in small parts, any part of India. They are employed productively and close to their homes. So vendors who are selling vegetables, vendors who are selling in hearts, right? Millions of them. This is a peculiar part of India. This you might not notice in many countries. When you travel to developed countries, you will not find many vendors sitting on the roadside and selling many things, except in few developing countries or emerging countries or poor countries. But India is unique on that part. The concept of heart coexists with malls. The concept of a small retail stores in a small home exists with big bazaar and mega marts and all. So 80 to 85% people who are labor force employed in this is called informal sector or what we call self-employment. Now this is all kind of a venture. This is basically a kind of an entrepreneurship because they start up their own. They take some loan from their wives maybe, or wives take money from their husbands, or they take from some family elders, or hardly few people go to the banks. Okay, this has become a part of culture in India. But then when Narendra Modi became prime minister, I am telling you again without any political affiliation, I have noticed one thing, the kind of initiative what our prime minister has taken for startup India is abnormal. I mean, this was a huge kind of a boost for young people, and this actually percolated down to schools and colleges. I am a director of a college. I have been a dean of a colleges in last 8-10 years. And because of the prime minister's initiatives in last 6 years or 7 years, we started incubation center in many colleges where I have been a director. And in all these places, what I have noticed, many of my students who have been doing MBA, and historically, MBAs are aspiring for a job and they want a campus placement. So this time, in last few years, I am noticing many of the students are telling me, sir, we don't want a job. Can I think of a startup? And interestingly, many of my students have started a startup at a small level. Some of them have become successful because if you know the startup stories at the level of ideation only, 90% of them they fail because they don't get a proper support. And out of that 90%, when they fail, only 10% go to the next level. When that 10% go to the next level, they have some kind of a prototype, they have some kind of a product with a test in the market. Again, 90% of them they fail, right? So this failure rate is very, very high. So therefore, what happens in this ecosystem, the government's role in providing them an ecosystem at an early age, at the age of school, at the age of college, at the level of skill India, right? Smart India, stand up India. All these initiatives have been taken up by government at a parallel manner. And the result is that today, if you see the government data, which is there in economic survey, there are 41,000 startup in India. And interestingly, 38 of them are unicorn. That means they have become valuation wise more than $1 billion, right? That's a huge jump in recent times. And in recent times, I'm not talking about informal sector startup. I'm talking about a formal sector startup which is having a data with the government. But as I said, in India, the culture of informal sector and entrepreneurship and starting up a small business at their hometown outside their gate is extremely big. It requires more better system. It requires intervention by the banks. Now, recently also I am finding the government has actually given licenses to some banks which are working at a micro level, because microfinance is the need to support a small enterprises. Bigger banks serve bigger people, right? Smaller banks or banks which are in a micro level, they can support this startup. Government is doing very far. Students, young people, which is the asset for India, they are involved in that, and I am confident that even if you see today in the startup or entrepreneurship ranking, USA is number one, Israel is number two, and India is number three. I'm quite hopeful that very soon India will reach number two and India might reach number one because of these policies and the initiatives taken by the government.
Indeed, sir, you have told many important things, and you have told how actually government is promoting the entrepreneurship within a country, how they are working towards ease of doing businesses. And this is something I think we all need to genuinely appreciate. And this is something that will lead to the vision our Prime Minister has, the vision that he visualizes is that making India 5 trillion economy by the year 2025. I think these are the things which are going to support, which are going to help to make to achieve the dream with the FDI as well as with the privatization is of course will be the contribution, major contribution. And sir, my next question to you is: at a time when the world was suffering from a deadly pandemic, India plans to convert this crisis into an opportunity and strengthen its fight by becoming Atmanirbhar or self-reliant. Sir, what are your recommendation to foster self-reliance, especially if we talk about in the field of technology, especially in the field of entrepreneurship?
See, technologically, India has got an advantage for last 15, 20 years, right? The credit of people like Narayan Murthy or Infosys or Wipro or TCS, they have become a landmark in the world. But then Indian small IT industries and intervention of technology in many areas like pharmacy, like health, India utilized all these initiatives during COVID times. See, COVID forced India. Sometimes sometimes we say that necessity is the mother of invention. So COVID-19 came as a mother of invention and a push for India. I mean, think of an India when March 2020 COVID hit us. There was hardly any PPE kit made in India. Today, India is exporting PPE kit. India had no vaccine. India is not exporting, I will say, but India became a global supplier of vaccine on COVID-19. India was importing mask. India was importing gloves. India is exporting mask. India is exporting gloves. The price of mask was 250 rupees. The price of mask has gone down to 15 rupees. I mean, you think of innovations and innovations getting converted into output, and that output goes to the world market at a reasonable price with a reasonable quality, right, and better surveillance. I mean, India has emerged very strong during COVID times. India, as I said, had the advantage of digital infrastructure for quite some time. And Indian scientists or Indian entrepreneurs, they use these digital intervention to make the product successful and to make the process also successful. So during COVID times, think about digital transactions, companies like Paytm, right, or many interventions on payments and settlement of credit and debit part of customers and companies and banks and many other entities. So all these interventions led to cashless economy, right? Secondly, the sectors like health, education, think of edutech. I mean, today, millions of children across India, there may be some disadvantaged group, I'm not denying it. But then we as a college, when we started our programs, only through Zoom and other digital interventions, it was all successful. Our transition from face-to-face to digital was very strong, very quick, and very, very economically strong. So I will say that India on these fronts have emerged very strong, and hopefully by another 5 6 years, what you mentioned, that Indian economy has a goal of becoming a $5 trillion economy. I mean, probably once this COVID starts slowing down and economy becomes on the right track, these India will become more ambitious. I was reading one article. Why to think of 5 trillion? Why can't India think of 10 trillion on economy by a particular date? Let's say 2032, 2035, whatsoever is that. So India has a potential to become, I mean, India is bound to become the third largest economy very soon. I mean, after US, China, India will be there. But even if China becomes very, very fast, because in autocratic country, you can't compare China with India. You are a democracy. China is not a democracy. So comparing China with India is always injustice to me, right? You can compare India with USA. You can compare India with UK, because you can't compare apples and oranges, right? So in that case, give all credit to India. Being a democratic country, growing at that rate is abnormally high and beautiful. So I'm very positive about growth story of India.
Indeed, sir, you have told many important things. And as you have very rightly mentioned, that India is the second largest tech savvy country after the one of our never provoking in Ladakh. And this is the biggest advantage. And as you have mentioned, that COVID-19 pandemic, how India became the coronavirus vaccine hub. And I am proud to say that total 92 countries has approached India for the vaccine. It is really a great matter pride of all of us. Sir, my next question to you is, though entrepreneurship in India isn't new, Indian business have come a long way. There are numerous Indian companies listed on the Fortune 500 and a huge number of Indian billionaires, as you have very rightly mentioned. Some on the list are especially inspiring because they managed to make their fortune during the British rule when the environment was not conducive for business, and particularly for Indian business. The one who succeeded in that environment went to the extra mile to succeed. So my question to you is, how do you see the future of entrepreneurship in India in the next 10 years?
Let me just, the background which you started, that some businessmen have been very successful during British rule, and some businesses have become very successful even during license quota Raj. I mean, I'm very proud of people like Narayan Murthy. I'm very proud of companies like TCS, right? That you can't think of a companies like Infosys becoming so big in such a short time. And that was a result of, I will say only one thing, India has got, India now seeing, a liability converting into an asset. Indian population was considered a liability, right? But then when your population getting educated, when your population getting a right mix of skill, education and exposure, same kind of population which are liability becomes a great asset. And many institutions in India, not just IITs, I will say, because there are a large number of private institutions also which have produced multi-millionaire in IT sector. You can't ignore, institutions like BITS Pilani or many private institutions. I will not like to name all of them, but they have contributed enormously in that space. Today, if you see India, India has got 30% of the global school of management. Imagine that out of all schools of management in the world, 30% B schools are in India. Okay, and we have got so many colleges, more than 1,000 universities, and the drive of a startup India, the drive of entrepreneurship, incubation is enormous. Now, this drive started very intensively 5 6 years ago. I tell you, the credit goes to the Prime Minister of India, Sri Narendra Modi ji. I'm not saying that the previous governments have not given enough push on that, but idea is that there is a time for everything. The time came, and COVID actually accelerated the need for such intervention. I mean, in COVID times, there has been a decline. Many startups, they reported shutdown. 13% of startup they shut down during COVID times. More than 60% reported slowdown. And only fewer startups reported very fast growth. But then today, when COVID has actually declined in terms of impact, in terms of because COVID was uncertain 9-10 months ago. A lot of things are known about COVID today. Vaccination is in full swing. So what happens in 21 second quarter or third quarter? You might see a big upsurge or a big rise of enterprise, business and commerce in India. India, with a large pool of population of people like you and me, young population I'm saying, whose age bracket is below 25, below 30 years of age, that is the biggest asset. And this asset, with the Prime Minister's scheme of Skill India, a large number of colleges and universities training them and giving them access to incubation, startup, funding, venture, and then a lot of medias and social media actually creating an environment of thinking big. I mean, a lot of small kids I can see today. I watch many programs on television and think of even one program I watch regularly is Indian Idol. I mean, people who are in remote areas, when they come and they perform on that stage, you can see that how polished and how powerful they become. So that means India has got a huge potential. Only thing you require a platform, a stage, a support, intervention. Now that is happening for the first time in a big way, in a massive scale. Hers, I am extremely confident. 10 साल के बाद, perhaps जब हम बात कर रहे होंगे, तो इंडिया डिफरेंट लीग में खड़ा होगा. और आज भी आप देखिए, if you see the Indians in global markets, I mean, I'm very proud when I feel an Indian origin is the finance minister in UK. I'm very proud when I find that in Britain, an Indian origin, Priti Patel, is the home minister. I'm very proud of Sundar Pichai. I'm very proud of many people. So there are many people in India who are heading large companies worldwide, deans of Harvard Business School, deans of many colleges worldwide. What is that? That is the power of soft power of India. Soft power means power of human asset. And if that power in India gets a proper support, आप imagine कर लीजिए इंडिया का क्या फ्यूचर है. 10 साल के बाद आप imagine नहीं कर सकते इंडिया कहाँ खड़ा होगा.
Indeed, sir. I think it's very hard to disagree with you. And sir, I can say there's a lot more to learn from you, but today I don't want to take you much time. So moving to my last question of this session. Sir, actually, I have got this question from one of my subscriber. He's asking, actually, this is not very much, I can say, related to the topic, but I'm putting here because I have got this. He's asking that some people prefer to start their own venture in their college days. We have seen one of the world biggest, one of the world largest startups are built in the dormitory of their colleges, or we can say garage. And on the other hand, we have seen that some people prefer to work for in their initial days, work for any big organization and take some experience. Then they prefer to start their own venture. Sir, how do you see which one is the best choice?
See, any startup is a risk in the beginning, right? And if you want to minimize the risk, what we call risk averse people have small outcome. People who take risk, they can think of larger and bigger outcomes. The kind of startup which they're talking about, which happened in garage, they started their own garage. I mean, a startup in a small garage. They never thought of the outcome. They thought that we might fail, right? They were all college dropout, school dropout, but they had an idea. They started that idea. Some of them definitely have failed, but then some of those ideas not just changed people in terms of money, they changed the world in terms of how the world does the business, how the world, thinks about mankind, business, commerce, and the processes. So my advice to this subscriber who is asking this question, I think it's better to take a risk at this age. Youngsters must take big risk. See a big picture. Think big. What will happen? You can fail. So फेलियर से अगर आप डर गए तो स्टार्टअप के बारे में सोचना ठीक नहीं है. फिर तो आपको किसी कंपनी में काम करना चाहिए. फेलियर को भूल जाना है. मुझे इफ आई हैव एन आइडिया, लेट मी गिव टाइम टू दैट आइडिया. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. क्या होगा? फेल हो जाएगा. फेल होगा, you can find out something in this life. Don't worry, right? And if it becomes a successful, it's not that you become billionaire. you change many things for world, and you add lot of value to humanity. So my idea will be take risks and grow bigger.
Indeed, sir. Again, it was a very wonderful advice from your side, and I can say it was a very wonderful discussion with you over the topic. Thank you so much, sir, for joining and giving your important time. It was a very healthy discussion with you over the topic. We look forward to conduct more such sessions with you in future. Thank you so much, sir, for joining.
Thank you, Harsh. Thank you, and wish you all the best, and wish you all the best for the channel. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you, sir.
On the ground is where I stand. Never give up, that was always the plan. It's so cold outside, I'm alone